Hey everyone, what is up and welcome back to my channel. As you guys can tell from the title of today's video, I'm filming something a little bit different, but it is actually something that you guys really wanted to see. Not too long ago, I did a question on Twitter. Essentially, I just asked you guys what videos you wanted to see from me, and this is one that was actually really highly requested, and it is all of my favorite video games. If you guys are not aware, I play video games almost as often as I read. So today I thought I would sit down and just tell you guys all the video games that I really enjoyed throughout my life. Some of these are going to be pretty obvious because they are ones that if you are about my age, I'm 29, you probably played as a child and genuinely enjoyed. But I'm going to go ahead and get started. I don't know how many there's going to be in this video. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I really wanted to sit down and share my love of video games with you guys because a lot of you expressed that that is something that you are also into, and I think it's fun and it's different and it's something new that I wanted to try on my channel. Because if you saw my vlog that I put up on Monday, I do want to start focusing on everything that I really enjoy, and like I said, since reading is such a big part of my life and video games are such a big part of my life, I thought this was a good video to start with. And like I said, it's something that you guys really wanted to see. So the first video games I'm going to start with are the ones that I played when I was much younger. So ones that I played when I was anywhere from like 6 to 10 years old. The first one that I really want to focus on is obviously Mario Kart. I played it on the N64 growing up with my cousin Cody, and I loved that game so much. I feel like a lot of us really did. Now, even playing the newer ones, I'm still a huge fan of the franchise. I absolutely adore Mario Kart. I think that it is such a fun game to play with friends, but also it is a game that you can play by yourself. It is the video game that really got me into the whole mindset of like not wasting time sitting in front of the TV and doing something. I was never really into watching television growing up, and it was really weird for me to be spending so much time sitting, with a cousin or with a friend or whatever and playing this video game. But it really taught me that you can get worth out of that because you're hanging out with a friend and you're playing a game with a friend or with, a family member, whatever it is, and you're really enjoying yourself and you're making that connection with them. And I think that's where my love of video games as like a community kind of came about, because I do really enjoy games that you're able to play with other people. I obviously have games that I play by myself, but that is what showed me from the very beginning that it's okay and it's not a waste of time. And I'm so glad I learned that so early on, because video games are definitely how I de-stress. Now, reading, I obviously read for escapism, but if I just need to play something and not really detach myself wholly from a moment, it's video games, and Mario Kart definitely taught me that. The next game that I really liked was on the PS1, and it would be Chocobo Racing. Now, I never really played any of the games that the Chocobo are actually from, like any of the Final Fantasy games. I played the most recent one, or the second most recent one, on PlayStation briefly, but I just never really loved them as much as everybody else did. But oh my god, Chocobo Racing. This is obviously a very obvious choice for me because I do, or did at the time, really enjoy racing games. And when Chocobo Racing came out, if you don't know what that is, Chocobo are they're like a cross between, I always want to say a flamingo, but they're not really a flamingo. They're just giant chickens that you're able to have in the Final Fantasy games. And what Chocobo Racing was is you could essentially race Chocobos. So I can't remember if you could bet on them, but I know you could actually like race them. And this is a game that I have tried to find numerous times as an adult, and I cannot find it for cheap anywhere, but I loved it. I thought it was so much fun. I used to actually play it with my birth dad a lot, and I really enjoyed it. And this is a game that, like I said, if I could go back and play it now, I would, but I feel like some of the magic would kind of be lost on that game. The next game I want to talk about that kind of is still in the realm of video games that you can play with a friend is a game that you can actually play on the Wii, and that would be Dokapon Kingdom. Dokapon Kingdom is actually touted as the friendship ruining game, and that's for a very good reason. This game is actually it's like a board game essentially. It's akin to, I would say, like, I don't know, like Mario Party, where you kind of like move around the board. But the difference is, as you're moving around, the sole purpose of the game is to make money to give to the king to be able to marry his daughter, Princess Penny. But as you're going around, a lot of shenanigans start happening. You get to battle monsters as you are moving around the board. You can battle each other. But the thing is, as you're battling, you basically roll and choose who gets to go first, who gets to go second, and that, depending on how high your magic evade, things like that are, you're able to evade or attack monsters. But the really fun thing about this game is, like I said, it is the friendship ruining game. There are many ways you can fuck over your friends in this game, and it is so much fun. It's definitely not a malicious kind of way. You can change their hairstyle, you can change their name, you can paint their face, that kind of stuff. The game is just overall incredibly fun. It's definitely a game where there's a lot to it. I have played I think like 80 or 90 hours of the game, and I have yet to actually play a full playthrough of it, because it is one of those games where you have to have a core group of people that are willing to constantly play the game with you, that are willing to commit to playing it. If you are a fan of D&D, if you ever played D&D, it's similar to that. You have to have a set group of people. The game does have an added bonus where you're able to remove people that are playing and make them NPCs, you know, while you're playing, and then when they come back, they can take back their own character, but it does get kind of annoying. The really cool thing about this game as well is at one point in time, if anybody falls severely behind, if they don't have properties, because essentially you take over cities and stuff once you defeat monsters that are on those cities, if they don't have properties, if they don't have like a lot of money, things like that, there's a character named the Darkling that actually shows up, and he is able to make somebody, basically they can do shenanigans. Like that character for I think it's like 15 turns is just ridiculous. Like they are able to screw over a lot of people, and they're able to do a lot of incredibly ridiculous things, and I just really like this game. This is definitely a game that is, for me, really good to play on like a Sunday lazy afternoon with a bunch of my friends. And if you haven't played it, I definitely recommend it. I don't know if you can play it on anything other than the Wii, but if you can get your hands on it, 10 out of 10 would recommend. Now the next game that I want to talk about is a game that I discovered when I was about 18 or 19, and it spurred my love of RPGs, and it spurred my love of story-based video games, and that would be pretty much the entire Fable franchise. I did not start out with Fable 1 though, however. I actually started out with Fable 2. I was at a really dark point in my life, like a point in my life that I don't like to look back on, and I feel like because of Fable, I was able to kind of gain some escape from some of the things that were happening. I was dating someone at the time that I've been dating for a very long time, and he was playing Fable, and I was like, okay, well, you know, whatever, maybe I'll play it. He had friends over, and he like set his controller down, and I started playing it and fell head over heels in love with it. Basically, you are a hero and you are sent to protect Albion, but the thing is, in this game, you are very, very young, at least in the second one you are, but you overall, for all of the stories, you're just a hero that's sent to protect. Now, each game is very different. So I didn't play the first one until I was in my mid-20s, and I actually played Fable Anniversary, but Fable 2 stands out as a knockout game for me. I really like the dynamic of that game. Like I said, it is an RPG. There are choice-based decisions you can make in the game, especially when you are much younger. You are able to level up yourself in the way that you want to, so you are able to choose different kind of magic. You can focus on whether or not you want to focus on guns, if you want to focus on melee weapons, that kind of thing. But the reason why I truly, truly love Fable so much is because you are so engrossed in the story, but the story and the characters within the story are hilarious. There's actually an achievement. If you're not familiar, there are achievements that you're able to get depending on what system you're on. And on Xbox, there is an achievement for kicking chickens, and it's just, the chickens are like an overall running like joke throughout all of the games. Now, unfortunately, Lionhead Studios, the studios who actually do this game, did shut down. They were not really being able to put out the games they were supposed to be. There was an open world game that they were actually developing. They did this really weird Connect game that tanked completely, and they just shut down the company. However, there is a British company that has actually picked up, not Lionhead Studios, but picked up Fable franchise. So I know they're still developing the open world game, and I am so excited. You guys, nothing, and I mean nothing I've ever planned for, no event, nothing will ever make me as excited as I am for the new Fable game. Now the next game I actually want to talk about, I meant to mention when I was younger, but it'd be Pokemon. I love Pokemon. Pokemon was a game that I played on my Game Boy. I got a Game Boy Color from my Oma, and it had the red version in it. And I played that game non-stop, like non-stop. I still play Pokemon constantly. I play it on my phone. Obviously, I play Pokemon Go. I do want to get a Switch so that I can actually play Pokemon Go Eevee, but definitely the one that sticks out the most to me was Pokemon Red. I have played most, if not all, of the games since then, but definitely in the last like 8 or 9 years. But primarily the one that I really want to focus on was Red, because Red was so different for me. It was, when I played it, my Game Boy didn't have like the backlight on it, so you had to like play during the day, or I'd play like by a lamp. It was really weird. And now you have like the crazy, I mean, they're not making Game Boys anymore. Now you have to play it on the Switch, or moving forward, you'll have to play it on the Switch. But definitely Red. I remember playing it with my friends. I remember playing it, you know, when I was disgruntled, where I had to go somewhere with my family, or I was uncomfortable somewhere. And for For me, that is my childhood. Like when I think about video games that I loved as a kid that I can really, really remember at like a super young age, it's definitely Pokemon. And the next game I want to talk about is a 2-player game or a multiplayer game that I have played pretty well for the last, since I was like, I would say a freshman in high school, and I'm 29 now, so a very long time, and that would be Halo. This is a game that the entire franchise I go back to constantly. I'm actually currently playing it with my roommate. I played it with everyone I've ever dated. I have played it by myself, just like in the dark of my own bedroom. Halo is a game that I think has really done well for itself over many, many generations. So when you first played Halo, it was definitely more of like a LAN party, hang out, play with your friends, like 1-player kind of thing. And now it's something that you can do online with people. You can play with your friends on split screen, except for 5, because if you're not familiar, Halo has always been split screen to where you can play with a friend on TV, like on one TV, and Halo 5, they actually made it to where you both have to own the game, you both have to own an Xbox, and it's the most petty shit I have ever experienced. It was a really big issue when the game first came out, but Halo for me is definitely a game that I love the story. Like Master Chief is one of my favorite characters from a video game ever. He is one of the first Spartans, one of the first, like, I don't know, like badasses essentially of the game. And I remember in the first one when they're like defrosting him basically and just being like in awe. And I remember being incredibly annoyed by Cortana. I'm still incredibly annoyed by Cortana. I thought the Flood were absolutely fucking terrifying when I was little. I don't know, I just really like the story of the game, but what I really loved about the game, like what really brought me back to it and continues to bring it back for me, is the fact that you can play with so many of your friends. It's such a communal kind of game. I don't know anyone who has not played this game or who has played this game and didn't love playing it with their friends. It doesn't have a very vivid memory of playing it with people that they care about. And it is just, it's such a good game, and it's definitely for everybody, because even if you're playing with like a younger sibling, or you're playing with somebody who's a little bit more inexperienced, like me when I first started playing, I was awful at the game. You always see those memes of people who are like pointing to the ground and like shooting because they can't aim. That was definitely me. But it is a game that you can even play with those kinds of people, because if you're playing co-op story, you can really help them. And there's, you know, you're able to change like how difficult it is. If you're wanting to get into like a shooter kind of game, I would definitely recommend Halo. I think that it's very intuitive in a way, and the story really spurs it along. And the later on you get in the games, a lot of things start changing, so you're able to, you know, use certain vehicles and things like that. The game gets more in-depth and a little bit more enjoyable, I feel, for people who aren't just looking for the average shooter. Now the next game I want to talk about is a game that I've spoken about a lot, and no one's going to be shocked by this at all, but it'd be Dragon Age. Now, not any Dragon Age. The first Dragon Age I ever played was Inquisition. Very selfishly, I spoiled myself and started with Inquisition and basically fucked myself out of enjoying any of the other games, because Dragon Age Inquisition, for me at least, I know a lot of people feel very differently about this, but for me at least it was magical. I remember playing this game, and I have certain points in my life that I can remember over like a 2-year period, because I played the game constantly for about 2 years, and I remember just being like, at very specific points in the game, laughing, crying. Like there is an add-on, like a DLC for the game, and I remember my ex coming home and me just sitting on the couch. I had been up all night, I looked friggin' ridiculous, but I was bawling at the conclusion of this game, and he was just like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like looking at him like, "No, I'm not okay." This game has touched me heart and soul in ways that a video game I never thought it could. So what this game essentially follows is you are pretty much reborn or born into this world. You don't know, you don't have any of your past memories, and you awaken and you are in a cell, and all you remember is a woman yelling and telling you to go get help. What has happened is the other side, I can't remember what it's actually called, but there are rifts that are actually exposed in the world that you live in, and you're the only person that can close them. But what comes through the rifts are like demons and monsters and things like that. Well, the thing that I really like about this game, even though that's sort of what the overall plot line is, that you're supposed to be closing these rifts, what I really like about it, especially I would recommend this game if you're a fan of Mass Effect, something that this game also has is a lot of followers that you are able to pick up along the way. So if you don't take certain quests, if you don't impress somebody enough, people won't want to join you, or you won't have the same kind of relationship with them. And the further along you get in the game, the more dialogue options actually open. What's really cool about this game as well is, as you are playing, the characters that you have in your party, because you have a 4-person party, you and 3 other people, they actually start communicating with each other. And there's a lot of really hilarious hilarious dialogue. There's a lot of really crazy things that they say to each other, things that they say to you in dialogue when you are talking to them. This game, oh my God, has trans rep, it has gay rep, like it's just, oh God, it's so good. It's so wholeheartedly just, I think other than Fable, it's the game that I could never, like I would give up any other game to keep Fable and Dragon Age Inquisition, like hands down my 2 favorite games of all time. The really cool thing about this game as well is you are able to kind of choose what race you want to be in the beginning and what kind of class you want to be. I don't remember if there's specific, I think the edition that I have, I'm able to choose pretty much everything, but I think there are certain people that aren't able to do certain things depending on what edition you have. But the really cool thing about this game is as you are playing, you're actually able to pause and control the other characters that you have in your party to do certain things. So I think that was like a really big bonus for this game. So there are certain characters that are able to do certain things. So say you decide that you want to be a more melee kind of character. Say you have a character in your group, there's one that I always carry, or that I always had with me, which is Varric. He actually uses a bow the entire time. There are a couple of other characters who do, like Dorian is my other favorite, he specifically does magic. And Solus is my very favorite character of the entire game. He also does magic. But it's really good to be able to, you're able to use their moves. Say you're like, oh well, you know, I've been playing melee, maybe I wanna play a Solus for a little while. I wanna do like, you know, any kind of magic. So you can actually switch between the characters, but you can do that in a pause screen as well. So you can pause the screen or pause the game and actually be able to tell them what to do, whether that's use potions, whether that's to use like certain buffs, things like that. What's also really cool is say your main character dies while you're playing, or whatever character dies while you're playing them, you're actually able to transition to a different character. So it makes the game pretty fluid. That is a thing that I never really used. I never used like the moves specifically, but I did jump between character to character to be able to get certain things done. There are certain things in the game as well that you have to have specific characters with you to be able to do, like Varric does pick locks. There's a lot of things that Cassandra as a character is able to do, especially when it comes to persuasion. So it's a really interesting game. The story overall is really interesting as well. If you have not played the game, I'm not going to spoil it for you because it's definitely a game that I feel like a lot of people should experience. But like I said, of all the games, if I could get rid of any of them, I would keep Fable and I would keep Dragon Age. Now, speaking of RPGs that I truly love, I'm going to kind of lump these together, these 2 specific ones. I'm talking about Skyrim and Elder Scrolls Online. Elder Scrolls Online is the most recent one. This is something that Bethesda has been working on for a while, and it is an ongoing thing. We are actually getting Elsewhere soon, which is where the Khajiit live, and Khajiit are my favorite. If you're not familiar with anything Elder Scrolls is essentially about you are the Dragonborn, you are able to fight dragons and you're like super fucking powerful, and it's just, I'm sure everybody at this point kind of knows Elder Scrolls, or at least knows Skyrim. Elder Scrolls is actually the online version of that, so you're able to play with everybody. Like there are millions of people that play this game online, like to the point where sometimes the servers unfortunately lag so much, there's so many people, but it is such a fun thing. I have made so many friends on Xbox just playing Elder Scrolls Online with people. It has a similar vibe, but it is more, in a way, I want to say more linear. It is definitely still open world because it is an MMORPG, but it is, I feel like, a little bit more linear. There are things that you need to get done, as opposed to Skyrim, which, like I said, is another game that I truly love that is essentially the same kind of story. Skyrim, if you're not familiar, you are once again the Dragonborn, and that is like your overall, like you're sent to protect, and really that's like the basis of the game, but eventually it gets to the point where you're like, what am I doing? Because it's such an open game. I remember when I first played the game, before I 100%ed it, which is I got like every single achievement that you could possibly get on the game. I had like, I think like 1,000 hours or something on my old Xbox before it got corrupted. I played that game constantly the entire 1.5 years that I lived in California. I did nothing but play that game and one other game. So I had so many hours on that game, but eventually it gets to the point where you're so overpowered that you are just playing the game for the story. You're playing the game for the quests, for the experiences, for the characters that you meet. There's so much lore in that story, in that game, that you can spend out, like I spent over 1,000 hours just playing it and getting all of the story. And it's a game that I continuously go back to. Even though I know the story, there are different things that you're able to do within the game that can really change that for you. There are certain guilds and organizations that you're able to join that really change the story for you. You can do Thieves Guild, you can do Dark Brotherhood, you know what I mean? Like you can do the oh my god, what are they called? The like werewolves. You can do a bunch of different stuff within this game. So it definitely changes depending on what kind of experience you want. You can choose whether you want to do magic, you can choose whether you want to be melee. I've always been a melee character. I prefer tanks to anything really in any kind of game, but I love that game so much. I really truly do. I know no one who has played that game who hasn't fallen head over heels in love with it. Pretty much everybody who's ever played an Elder Scrolls game, I have yet to find somebody who didn't truly enjoy it. The next game I want to play is actually a game that I play on PC a lot, and it would be Oxenfree. I've also played this on the Xbox. It was free for a little while. Oxenfree is a very different kind of game. What it is sort of just a story-based game. There's not a whole lot that you can do. You really just kind of walk around and have dialogue options with people, but the story itself is so fucking interesting. So you are a young girl. You, your stepbrother, and your best friend are going to this party that is on an island that is pretty much deserted depending on the time of the year, like during the summer. But it is the big blowout bash for the senior class. So you bring your new stepbrother, but what happens is there's a radio that you as your main character carry around, and you're able to open certain radio stations to be able to listen to things that are happening on Edward's Island. But what happens is you actually open a portal to the past, and you and all of your friends are transported to a portal to the past, which is inhabited by people that were lost on a, what are they called? Submarine accident years and years and years and years in the future. What they are trying to do is use you guys to get back to the present day. The story is so incredibly, like, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. It is very creepy and atmospheric, but it is so well done. The music in this game, the art in this game, the dialogue in this game, the relationships in this game, like, and it's one of those games that depending on the ending that you choose, everything changes. And while you're playing, you're actually able to put up certain markers or certain help decisions for people that you know will come along and play it after you. So say you play on Xbox and you make a decision, you're able to sometimes be able to put that decision out there that your friends are able to then see maybe what you've chosen and then make that decision for themselves. I think it is such an in-depth, awesome, like, it's a very interesting game. Like I said, love the music, love the characters, love the dialogue. I just think that for it's a little bit more like a side-scrolly kind of game in a way. I feel like it's a very in-depth, beautiful game, and it's definitely a game that, even though at the basis of it is very simple, it has a lot to offer. And it's a game that if you're not into shooters, you're not really into, you know, anything crazy where you got to be like attacking and fighting people, it is a game that will challenge you because there are like think on your feet kind of questions throughout the game, but it's a very manageable game. So if you want to play video games, but you don't want to play like the traditional kinds of video games, this is a good place to start. Now, the next game that I want to talk about is another franchise that I really love and has different types of games within the franchise, and that would be Plants vs. Zombies. I actually played Plants vs. Zombies a lot on computer when I was in my like late teens, like probably like 17 through 19. And all Plants vs. Zombies is it's kind of like a tower defending game where you set up certain plants to block certain zombies. So a lot of your plants are able to attack back. A lot of your plants sort of act as like, there's these big nuts that you're able to use that sort of block like incoming zombies while they're being attacked. That is the basis of the game, like the very, very basic original version of the game. And I really liked that. I think it's definitely a very good time killer. I believe you can play Plants vs. Zombies Heroes on your phone now, which is similar to that, but it is more of like a kind of card game that you're able to play. I really liked it though, but the game that I really liked is Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2, which is the game that is played Xbox, and you can play it online with a bunch of people, or at least I played it on Xbox. I don't know if it's on any other systems, but I loved that game. I still play that game. I love that game so much. Essentially, it is a shooter. It's an not open world, but it's like a, you know, like a 5v5 kind of shooter game that you play online, and you just join certain groups to be able to play with other people online. You can play with friends online, you can play with just random people. I always did random people, but what I really like about this game is it's definitely a game that you can play with everybody. When I play online, there's a lot of younger kids that play. There's a lot of people you can kind of tell are playing with like their parents and stuff. It is a very family-friendly game because you play as either a plant or a zombie. But what I really like about this game is the humor. So my favorite character that I always play as is a giant ear of corn. And there are a couple of other, like, I really love the cactus. When it comes to zombies, I really like the engineer. I like I play as the archaeologist, but I can't remember what kind of character that actually is. There's just so many different forms of plants and zombies that you can play as, but it's just such a lighthearted game. Like, there's a lot of There's one where you are defending a bomb against gnomes. There's ones where you are defending like a taco stand or like a taco itself. There are just like a lot of different worlds that you're able to travel to in certain games, like the capture the flag kind of games or like defender levels. But overall, I think it's like, when it comes to shooters, I feel like it's the most easily digestible for a lot of people because it is set up to be very cartoonish. But it is a lot of fun. It is a game that I've truly enjoyed playing for forever. Another game that I actually really liked, which was a more recent game, I would say within the last 2 or 3 years, was actually Dream Daddy. Dream Daddy is such... Okay, so Dream Daddy is definitely MA, it's for mature audiences, but you are a dad who has lost, you can choose kind of in the beginning whether or not you lost your wife or your husband, but you have a young daughter. But what you are doing is a story game where you go around and kind of talk to people and make decisions, and it's very light and wonderful, but you are a gay dad, and there is a bit of sex in it, there's a bit of things like that that happen. But what I really liked about this story is how do I say this? The representation of a gay dad in this kind of video game, I feel like was done really well. I feel like you can make certain decisions and kind of choose whether or not you want to be like super raunchy or you just want to have like a cute gay relationship. And I really liked that. And I think the story overall for me was just really adorable. I feel like the characters were done really well. I feel like the way that they're built up and their dynamics and how different they are from each other, I really liked that. I wasn't sure whether or not to really include this in this list because it is a game that I didn't play for a super long time, but it's not a game that I feel like I could go back and play again and again and again. But when I did play it, I absolutely loved it, and I did want to share it with you guys. I think you can get this on Steam. Steam is where I played it, but it is just overall, if you're looking for a different kind of video game, it's a cute story-driven video game. So there's not a whole lot of like action-y things kind of happening. So if you want to sort of dip your toes in there, this is one that I really enjoyed. Now, the last 2 games that I want to talk about are games that I have played pretty much my entire life, games that I've experienced, but I wanted to sort of lump into the last section of this. So the first one that I want to talk about is The Sims. The Sims. The Sims is a game that I have played pretty much my entire life. I have played so many hours of this game, whether it be on multiple computers that I have had The Sims on them. I have it on my Mac currently. But the thing that I really love about The Sims, if by chance you've never heard of them, you're able to play it on a lot of different systems, but my favorite way to play it is actually on computer. I think computer is the most enjoyable for me. I feel like it's the most intuitive as you're playing it. But what The Sims is you're able to create a character and create a life for them. So later on you can kind of choose the traits that they have, you know, whether they're mischievous, whether they're artistic, what they really like to do, if they like to read, that kind of stuff. And you build this life for them. So they do have to go to work, they do have to clean up after themselves, you have to make sure they're bathing and eating and all of that, and say they fall in love and they have a family, you have to build a family up for them as well. The Sims is a pretty simple game, I feel like, for a lot of people. They do have a lot of expansions recently where you can go to work with them, which I really enjoy. You can get pets, you know, that kind of stuff. But my favorite part of The Sims is just the mindless hours that you can put into it. Anybody who's played video games for a long time know that having a game like that is pretty invaluable, because to be able to sit down and I don't know, I've been at points in my life where I haven't wanted to read, I haven't really wanted to play anything, I just wanted to do something pretty mindless. And The Sims is that, but The Sims is different in a way that it's bright and colorful and there's a lot happening, but it's, like I said, it's so intuitive and so naturally, simply in depth. Like, you can do a lot of stuff, but it's not very hard to do. I feel like that's what I really value The Sims for. I'm able to just really relax and play that game and just detach myself and put myself wholeheartedly into what I'm doing with the character that I'm doing. And like I said, it's very easy to do that, and it's a very easy game to play. And I feel like if you're looking for something that you can put a lot of hours in without like having to do too much, I think that The Sims is a good choice. Now, the last game I want to talk about is a game that the newer version, I have mixed feelings on, but I adore, like adore the original ones, and that would be Crash Bandicoot. If you are about my age, you probably had a Crash Bandicoot moment in your life. Oh God, I'm just thinking about all the music in my head right now. I have played this game for so long on so many different systems in my life. I couldn't even tell you how many hours of this game I probably have. I can remember specific levels of this game. I can remember songs for this game. I can remember certain dialogue options like that characters say in this game. All this game is I don't know the type of game that you would describe it, I guess like puzzly platformer kind of game, but you are Crash Bandicoot, and you're trying to stop Dr. Neo Cortex. And what Neo does is he's trying to get these crystals to build something very important to him. Honestly, at this point, I can't even remember what the fuck he's trying to build. I just remember that I'm there to stop him. But what I really like about this game is as you're going through, you are actually collecting those crystals yourself, but you are moving forward or sometimes sideways in this game to battle things. You are able to spin to capture, I think they're called Wampa fruit, are the little fruits that pop out of boxes. It's a very simple, I would say for younger audiences kind of game, but this game's actually kind of fucking hard. There are certain levels where you're like racing. My favorite levels, you're on top of panda bears. You are on top of, what are they called? The white bears. What the fuck are they called? Just polar bears. You're racing on top of polar bears. Later on in the game, you're able to switch between characters. It's just a very, I would say, mindless kind of game, but for me, it is just such a nostalgic kind of game. Like I said, you are just moving throughout the world, the level that you are in, collecting Wampa fruit and collecting crystals. It seems very bbasic. If you have not played this game, it's a little bit more in depth than that. You have to like jump around, you have to get certain things, you have to avoid what are they called? I think they're just called nitro, but I can't remember the technical term for the boxes that explode. There are boxes that have TNT in them. Like you do have you have a limited number of lives that you are able to use while you are playing the game. But for me, it is just such, like I said, a nostalgic game that I go back to and back to and back to over and over and over again. If you have not played Crash Bandicoot, they actually have a new version that you can play on your computer. I don't know if I'd recommend it though, because I played the new one on my Xbox and I didn't really love it. It was not as easy to play in a way that when you've played the game so long, there are certain things that you've kind of learned about the game, like when to jump, and the land radius when you're playing it now, like your certain, like, what's it called? Your depth of field, it's not there anymore in the new game. So it's a little bit weird. It's not as intuitive as I remember it being, but it is still a very, very good game if you're looking for something that is older to get into to kind of like, you know, start your journey with. I would definitely recommend Crash Bandicoot. All right, guys, so I think I'm gonna end that here. I'm sure there are ones that I could have talked about that I didn't. I will give an honorable mention to a few. Mortal Kombat, Stardew Valley, I definitely really like those games as well. Soul Calibur, there's a lot of games that I think I could probably recommend as well. I mean, I briefly played Mass Effect and kind of liked it, but those are the ones that when I think of games that I truly, truly love, those are the games that come to mind. I have no idea how long this video is going to be. I have been rambling. I've had to turn off my camera and restart it like 3 times, so I'm really sorry if this video is super long, but let me know down below your favorite video game of all time, what part of your life it impacted, and why you truly love it so much. But that is going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I love you so much, and I will see you again in Friday's video.